What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Backpacking Podcast. As always, John Kelly here with Jeremiah Jerome Stringer, Sr., the King of Kentucky Backpacking. We are brought to you by Outdoor Vitals, makers of high-performance, ultralight gear. And I just want to say, Jeremiah, the beard is looking stupendous today.
Oh,
Stupendous.
Thank you very much. Actually, one of our sponsors is Outdoor Beards. So if you want a beautiful beard like this, you can check out outdoorbeards.com and get you some oil. Right now I'm using the summertime, but it's about time to switch over to some fall scents like grandma's pie or maybe a little bit of a peppermint around Christmas. He's got all kinds of flavors, all kinds of scents. Just don't eat them. And if you want to save yourself 10%, use our code backpacking whenever you check out.
That's right. So thank you to Outdoor Beards for sponsoring the show. And thank you to Outdoor Vitals for being not only a fantastic backpacking brand, but also being a fantastic lifestyle brand. Their clothes are so nice and decent looking. You don't have to just wear them on the trail. They actually are perfect for everyday wear. So thank you to Outdoor Vitals and to Outdoor Beards for sponsoring this show. Jeremiah, your son went to daycare for the first time today.
Yes, he did. Yeah, my wife, she had been keeping him every day, but I guess her maternity leave is over. Today, we both got smacked in the face by the real world. But
yep.
All is well. He was a happy little boy, nothing but smiles whenever we picked him up. So I think it's going to work out.
So can I tell you a little story before we bring in our guests tonight?
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm in Wisconsin this weekend for a wedding, and we're staying at a hotel. And we told the kids to lay down for a nap. You know, we'd had a long day. We'd been out at Lake Michigan playing and all this kind of stuff. And so the kids are in the bed, and we're in the hotel room, and all of a sudden I hear a knock on the door. I go, and it's the hotel manager, and she goes, "Is everything okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, everything's fine. What's wrong?" She goes, "Well, someone called 911 from this room."
Wow.
I'm like, "What?" And she goes, "Yeah, someone called 911 from this room." I'm like, okay, I don't think we did, but I mean, I'll talk to my kids and find out if anything happened. She goes, okay. And so she left, and I went and talked to the kids and found out my son had called 911.
Wow, what was the emergency?
Well, there was no emergency. He just called 911 because he'd heard about it at school. So he decided to call 911. So we didn't think anything of it because, we figured I must have hung up when the police answered. No big deal. Well, about 30 minutes later, a police officer shows up at our hotel room. And he goes, "Sir, is everything okay in there?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "There's nobody being kidnapped at the courthouse that you know of?" I'm like, "Say what?" My 6-year-old, with his vivid imagination, told a police officer on 911 that there was a kid being kidnapped at the courthouse. They had sent officers to the courthouse in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and were checking video feeds to see if a child had been abducted at the courthouse.
No way.
Yeah, and so I know for a fact, I'm positive that there's going to be one of those videos that comes out on TikTok, and it's going to be my son's voice telling them about someone being kidnapped. It's going to happen.
Oh my goodness. Did they slap you with some fines or anything?
No. He said, "Kids," he said, "you'd be shocked how often that kind of stuff happens." But he said, "Don't worry about it. No big deal." He's really cool about it. I was like, "Dude, we're from Kentucky. Sorry." I didn't know what else to tell him. I'm just like, this is the land of Dan Becker. This is not the land of John Kelly. I'm sorry. I got nothing here. So,
well, at your house, you probably don't have a normal regular house phone, right? Most people just have cell phones because your kid doesn't really get the opportunity to call 911. But all of a sudden you're in the hotel room and that phone's just sitting there, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, I remember when Steven at school told me about 911.
Yeah. So that happened this week. That was among many other things that happened, but that was probably one of the more adventurous things that happened this past week for us. Speaking of adventure, Jeremiah.
Yeah.
We got two guys on here tonight that went on one amazing adventure in Colorado in a Bronco. And I don't want to hold off any more of these two guys being on here to talk. Let's welcome to the show our good friends, David Gray and Jeremy Rodeffer. And let's hear all about this amazing trip that you two went on together.
How y'all doing?
Good.
Well, now that I'm logged on, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Putting himself on blast. What happened, dude? What happened?
I don't know. Well, Graber would not get off the phone, so and it tied up. You know how out in the country in Amish land you have like 15 phone lines. No, I'm just kidding. Actually,
So did the horse forget to run around the wheel and get the internet going and stuff? Oh, okay. That'll do it every time. Every time. You need to go back when we're done tonight, Jeremy, and read the comments, man, because they are awesome.
Oh, I clicked on. I've been reading them.
They're hilarious.
Lots of help.
Yeah.
Well, guys, you all both have your own YouTube channels, and I watched both of y'all's videos because recently you went out west. I was very jealous, but it looked like it was a lot of driving. So the first thing I saw in the video was somebody was filming, and it said, time to destination, 16 hours, 45 minutes. And I said to myself, oh my Lord, how did they survive? So I started wondering, what did you all do to kill the time for 17 hours of driving just to make it to the adventure location and start driving again?
Just nonstop backpacking podcast. All the
That's
way up.
right. That's right.
Oh,
On repeat.
What else would you listen to?
Woo, buddy. That's what I'm talking about right there. All I got to say is,
got one life, live it.
That's all I got to say.
Amen.
You got one life, live it.
Honestly, if I did that with my kids, I'd be ready to murder somebody by the time I got there. But and every dad knows
What, listen to the podcast or travel with somebody?
No, travel with somebody.
Okay, good. I was a little nervous there for a second.
Yeah. No, but actually travel with David's really cool because a guy that has like this much experience in the backcountry and this much knowledge, and I've said this a million times and I'll stand by this, he is like the Wikipedia of national parks in America. And it's like I can ask him a question and he either knows the answer or has been there, or he'll probably find it within minutes, which is really cool. But you know, it really, the drive was a lot of the fun, which, you know, thank goodness it was, because you think about it, you spend 16 hours driving to Denver or 18 hours driving to Denver. Then you drive to southern Colorado by way of backcountry roads. You're spending 6 to 8 hours a day driving back trails till you get to a camp. That's a lot of a time in a tight little space. So you got to be able to get along with someone to be able to do that. And actually it's really pretty cool. You know, just the conversations you have about, you know, hearing some of David's history, where he's been with his family and stuff like that. It was very, very cool for me.
Yeah, a lot of stories told, and it was kind of like endless. We both done enough stuff that you never really run out of a good story. So, and a lot of anticipation of the places we were going to go. So that was pretty cool too.
What about
Jeremy? It was like Jeremy did a lot of these last year. He and I did a trip together in Colorado a couple years ago and hit what I would call like all the, you know, the iconic backroading kind of places to go. Well, this trip was the one that we filled in all the blanks, everything else. And Jeremy had done one last year, and a lot of the places that he went last year, and I think you were doing most of them solo, Jeremy. You know, he said, you got to see some of this stuff. So we had planned this. I don't even remember when we first started planning this, probably 5 months ago.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I do want to get into, I'll give a little teaser here for later in the show, some redemption, because that does come in the video of a previous trip and you trying to reconquer in this, but we'll get there. Let's set the stage then for the trip. So do you all live in the same state?
Yes.
Yep. Living in Indiana.
Okay. So a great state of Indiana.
Two
Lots of
Hoosiers.
corn and lots of
That's right.
flat places to drive your Bronco, right? So you drove 18 hours out to Colorado and hit, how many passes did you all go through, and how many different routes?
Oh man, we probably went over about 5 or 6 passes. It started on it's called Red Cone Pass Trail, but David pointed out in his video, it's more of Red Cone Peak, which I did that last year. It's kind of a gateway trail, or it's been called one of Colorado's most intimidating trails because everybody knows about Black Bear, where there's a sharp cliff that goes like 1,000 feet off of one side. This is like, I mean, this is like, imagine ridge walking on I don't know, Angel's Landing, but only driving in something similar. You don't have much room beyond both sets of tires on both sides before you can roll off. And then on top of that, at the end, when you go downhill, you're literally going on all this loose rock down about a 24 to 25 degree slope. So you're literally putting it in the lowest gear possible and trying to keep from sliding your tires. I mean,
oh my gosh,
you're almost holding yourself up to keep from falling forward out of your seat. It's so steep. And and when I first did this, I remember the first time I'm doing that, I'm like, this is absolutely insane. And I was like, David's got to do this. So, and that's
what we started honestly, with. That was the first one we did.
Right. That was our first day. You know, it was getting to do this iconic Red Cone Pass, and you know, and just being able to be in the backcountry in that area. It's just some of the most pretty country that you can imagine. I mean, just the reds and the mountains from the iron ore. It was just a privilege to be able to share that day with them. You know, just shows something that was very difficult to do, and not many people would sit in the passenger seat on something like that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We have a couple comments real quick that I want to make sure we get in here before we get too far. So after what we said about the 911 call, somebody asked, punishment mode, what did Dad do, John? We had a nice conversation. He's 6. He heard about it at school. He didn't realize that you can't call and make stuff up to the police. So he got his one chance. The next one will not be good. Let's see then. How was AOL treating you, Todd?
Oh, obviously we knew the answer to that one.
Then Derwin Off the Rails gave us a super chat. He said, wow, trademark infringement. Jason gets 25 cents every time you play that, right? Love me some Hoosiers. Todd is a riot.
Oh, he's a good dude.
And finally, this one has to do with David. It says, thank goodness Jason isn't guest host this time. Remember the last David Gray episode? And a smile emoji with a lot of poops.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
I am curious. Do you have any, speaking of poop, Jeremy, do you have any special things that go along with your Bronco that assist in the pooping? Because John and I kind of discovered on the podcast, this like basically toilet seat that you put over your tire, and then you like sit, you know, it like suspends the toilet seat at waist level, and you sit there on that toilet seat hanging off the tire and poop. You got anything like that that's outfitted for your Bronco?
You're holding out on me, Jeremy.
I guess that means no.
Yeah, I don't want to fill up the treads of my tires. So I would rather do something different. So I usually drive to a Privy if I have to.
Nice.
Smart, mate.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, Jeremy's got like what, 38-inch, 37-inch tires, so you'd be suspended quite a ways off the ground, I think.
Well, Jeremiah wouldn't because he's 7 feet tall, but the rest of us normal human beings would be like struggling. So,
and I think David is close to my height, aren't you, David? Big old football player like you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So it's just me and Jeremy that would be struggling.
Yeah, he's climbing up on top, sitting, his legs are dangling off. He's trying to poop. That could be him on those 38-inch tires. Yeah, I was just talking to, who was it? It was my wife's, some of her family, and I was telling them about going off-roading because was it both of you guys, were y'all on that trip where Mike brought his Jeep? So we had Broncos and Jeeps.
Yeah. The land between the lakes.
Yeah. Wait, no, I'm thinking of somewhere near Red River Gorge. Did we not do?
Yeah, you jumped in on Pistol Creek and down on the byway.
But was David on that trip?
No, I was not on that.
That was Jason. Jason was there.
Yeah, I was just telling some of her family that the Jeep, I think, had like 36-inch tires or something. And it was like 36, 37, something like that. And she was like, does that sound right? And I was like, I don't know. And then they were like, no, there's no way that they were 38-inch tires. That's way too big to be on a vehicle. And I was like, no, y'all don't understand. Like, these guys are they're jacking up these Broncos, these Jeep, and can literally drive over everything. And I just wonder if, like, the common person, you know, they normally see a Jeep parked on the curb at McDonald's, but they don't get to see, like, you know, actual off-roading vehicles doing stuff like you all do in your videos. how do you even discover something like that and then like know the trails to hit out west? You just watch mostly YouTube videos?
Yeah, a lot of times, I use Onyx OffRoad, which is an app that is phenomenal for the off-roading community. I mean, it really lays out the difficulty of trail. It lays out, what the trail consists of, what are the dangers, and then also it usually posts in pictures. So it's probably similar to, the Onyx Backcountry new hiking app. I'm sure is probably a lot similar, but yeah, I watch a lot of videos. I mean, there's a lot of great videos out there. One of the guys that actually, John, you led me to was Ed Shin,
Yeah.
which I've actually talked to personally, and I'd love to make it out the Pacific Northwest just to do some stuff with him. And then
his
there's
stuff is really cool too. Like he's got some really cool sponsorships and stuff, and some of his trips are pretty epic.
Yeah, so it's funny because we were talking about trying to meet up in Colorado for this trip, and actually Ed knows David's channel just as well. Anybody that there's actually a really cool interview I did with him that talks about his getting into the backcountry, starting as a backpacker and watching the backpacking with Jasons and the Davids, and then getting into the off-roading and that whole part of it. But he's just really a phenomenal dude. And I was really hoping to work out, but he started a new job with the sheriff's department, kind of limited his time off. So, but I'm hoping to actually make that connection. But there's a lot of good YouTubers, just the same as backpacking. I watch the Shugs, I watch the Frozens, I watch the Syntax 77s.
I mean,
I
you
watch
obviously
the David
watched.
Green.
You obviously watched John
Yeah.
Kelly. That was important. You got to make sure you did that too. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I
forgotten
mean,
that one.
Absolutely.
life changing is what that is.
That's right. But you kind of go on the same path when you start the off-roading part of it. It's like there's tons of content out there. It's just a matter of, okay, the one thing I'll tell you, and David could probably speak to this, it's like when you see some of these trails, like when we're going up Red Cone Pass, you're looking at the videos, you're like, dude, he's just driving over rocks that look like bowling balls. You don't realize that incline is at least 10 degree up. So you're trying to make it up over those rocks as well too. I mean, it can cause for some chaotic moments, but the video never does it justice. But man, it really can help you discover new places to try.
Well, here's a question for you to go along with all that. When you're getting into this idea of off-roading, how do you convince your wife to spend that much money every time you break your vehicle?
Well, hopefully she's not watching.
I kind of wonder that myself.
Because I'm going to be honest,
Well-
like I've already, my wife knows that when my truck dies, I'm buying a Bronco. That's my next
Amen.
vehicle. And she's
Amen.
cool with it. She's already said that's fine. I don't know if she's going to be okay with me like putting all the extra stuff. Talk me through this, man. Give me some therapy right now. Explain to me
Okay,
how
well-
to have marriage counseling that will allow me to do this with you.
So first off, what you're going to, and there's a great group that I'll just mention real quick, Central Kentucky Broncos, that is a member. I think there's like 500 members of that man by the name of John Carson, awesome dude, which Jeremiah's met him, and there's some great guys out there. So when you get that, we'll get you hooked up with those guys. But the goal is not to break it. The goal is to drive it home. Yeah, no, the goal is to drive it home. And most of the time when something breaks, it's because you're spinning tires. You're really trying to, your ego may be getting in the way. It's okay to pull winch line. It's okay to tap out. It's like I always say, hey, I didn't come here to say no. Well, that doesn't mean if I didn't make it up, then I'm not going to risk rolling my Bronco or tearing it up just to try to say I did it. So, and funny enough, actually, I found out the day before I left for Colorado to pick up David, I found out I had a busted strut. So when I was rotating the tires,
Man.
So the back passenger had no shock at all. I mean, it was as bouncy as can be.
Is that why you were letting David drive so much? Because I noticed in the videos, David, you drove a lot more than normal on this trip.
Yeah. So that actually, I actually enjoy letting people drive. For me, how you guys get a kick out of showing people, either Gray's Arch or, Hanson's Point, there's a joy in that when you get to show somebody that for the first time. Man, I love Carlson. It's okay for a Bronco to pull out of your Tacoma. Yeah, that's right. Twice. So, but I get a joy out of that. I love, like, John, if I'm planning on trying to get you out there, I'm going to let you drive too. I let Jason drive. It's just, there's a part of
It's a
that,
blast.
I trust
Yeah,
all
it
my
was an
friends. It's,
absolute blast to drive that thing. You
It
feel
looks like
kind of
fun.
indestructible, when you're doing it. It's like you start getting to a point. It's like there's nothing that can hold this thing back, and that'll get you in trouble having that mindset.
Well, I just remember there was a meetup I went to, and Jeremy was there, and he goes, "Hey, you want to go for a ride in the Bronco?" I'm like, "Sure." We go out, and there's this ditch, and it's probably 2.5, 3 feet deep of mud. And I see it, and I go, "You're not getting through that." He goes, "Oh, yeah, we are." And he just dive bombs that thing. And I'm just like, it's like a rush of adrenaline. Like, it really is.
Yeah.
And you just like get all hyped up when you went through it. I'm like, "Can we get another one?" It's that much fun.
I remember that. And the funny thing was, we were in 2-wheel drive. So, yeah, I remember that. That was a good time.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, David, so I've been on a bunch of trips with you at this point. Some of them on foot, some of them on 4 wheels, sometimes 3 wheels, unintentionally in the Bronco. But I'm curious, I've never seen you drive your own vehicle on one of these sketchy things that we've done. I've seen you sleep in your vehicle. I've seen you drive it to backpacking and leave it in the parking lot. I've never seen you drive your own vehicle through this stuff. I'm wondering, will you tell us what is like the hairiest situation or like sketchiest situation that you have taken somebody else's vehicle on one of these trips?
Oh, on one of these trips?
On one of these trips, it doesn't have to be one that I've been on, but just in general, it seems like you've been quite a bit on the off-roading.
Yeah. There were a few spots because Jeremy hadn't been really, when I was driving, he hadn't been on what they call a shelf road, where you've got like a cliff on one side. So he had done most of the driving anytime that we were doing like Black Bear Pass or some of the shelf roads that we did on the last trip. So we got to do a couple of those this time where he got to look out the passenger window, like down 1,000 feet, a foot away from the tire on the one side. So, but normally we're not too bad. I think the ones that are the sketchiest ones, we let Jeremy drive those, because it's like, if I'm going to roll this thing, or if somebody's going to roll this vehicle off this cliff, it's not going to be me. So, so I usually stay with the kindergarten trails.
That's fair.
Well, what was it like, Jeremy, whenever you're teetering there on the edge? Because I've never driven like that, but I've been up some sketchy mountains and stuff, like around the Blue Ridge and all that, and it gets my heart racing. What's it like riding in the passenger seat?
Yeah, so I think sometimes the worst of it, and I can talk about Black Bear Pass because that's a perfect example. I remember talking to David. We just did, I think it was Imogene that day, Imogene Pass, and at one point you're looking over at Black Bear Pass, and all you see is the zigzag of the road that goes down, like literally looks like the mountain face, and it didn't look like there was much room at all for air, which there's not. But it almost kind of gets you all worked up. Like, I don't know if this is smart. I don't know if, I don't know that I'm experienced enough to do this. And David said some of the best moments or best words that you could in that moment. It was like, people do crazy things all the time. They just figure it out. And he referenced like a hike across some really rough snow that if you fell, you would just slide down. And those words kind of resonated with me. It's like, if you take your time and don't panic and just read the situation and not try to, have a panic situation where you make a mistake. I mean, it's not that bad. The views are phenomenal. It's sometimes you have to almost, stop the vehicle first, don't keep driving, but then look out and it's like, take it in. It's like, man, this is crazy. This is the coolest thing ever. You get all these crazy views, but I think the biggest thing is you just take your time and don't panic. Probably one of the worst things that happen is when something happens and you don't expect it, like maybe the rocks slide out from under you, or Jeremiah, I don't think you were there for that day, but at one point down in Red River Gorge, there was some mud, and Eric Taylor from Trail Hunter USA has a great video of this. My front two tires slid into a ditch. and I didn't expect it. I was on the road. Next minute, my front end's in this ditch, and my back tire on the passenger side was probably a good 5 foot in the air. So, and I was, teetering really, really bad. I didn't want to move. So, but that's where it's like, okay, think through the situation. And I got a hold of John. I was like, hey, can you see where my tires are pointed? And he told me, and then, I kind of crawled out of it. But the biggest thing with anything, don't panic, stay calm and you'll figure out whatever you need to.
Sure. Yeah. David, where does that you're like a calming wind. Where does that come from, dude? Is it in your nature, or are you just a seasoned
It's not my Bronco.
Yeah, there's a little of that. Yeah, there's a little of that going, well, Jeremy wants to take this thing here. That's perfectly fine with me. But it's like, that vehicle, when you've been in it enough times, it gives you like a confidence that you can kind of get through anything. It's just, it's kind of hard to describe until you're in it and you're driving in those things. But you drive on these just really sketchy things, and you've been through so many different, areas where it's like, there's just no way a normal vehicle could ever go through something like this. And you get through it. And some of them are like a puzzle, where you're trying to sort your way through, got to go here and get this tire on there and this wheel on there, and you'll get wheels off the ground. But you go through enough of that kind of stuff, and it gives you a confidence like, we can get through this. Although there were a few times on this trip, I think probably Red Cone Pass was the worst before you even get up like above tree line stuff where it was really sketchy with the knife edge. You go through like this forest where it was kind of like when we did the land between the lakes, and you're kind of like weaving your way between these trees with like a tree 4 inches on one side, 4 inches on the other. Only this was like really in deep pine forest with like 3 or 4 foot depressions, and on the wheels, and you're kind of weaving your way through that. But it's like you get through something like that, and you get this feeling like you can get through anything. So it's just kind of like this reassuring confidence that you have. Maybe it's not well-placed confidence, but we haven't. The one that really kind of worried me on this trip is, after I can't remember which pass it was, after St. Elmo, Tin Cup Pass, we had to drive through a lake. And so when we first were going to go over that pass, people had been telling us that the pass was closed because you had to drive through this lake, and there was 3 feet of water over the road. And so they had closed the pass. Well, we got to this campground the night before we were going to do that drive, and the guy who was in the campground was kind of an expert. No, I guess we went into St. Elmo, and it was a guy who owned the store in St. Elmo. He said, you shouldn't have any trouble in a Bronco with 37-inch wheels. But that whole time we were doing that drive that day, it was like, we got to drive through this lake. And then when you come up to the lake, it's like you sit on the shore, and it's like, we're going to drive through this like couple 100 yards of a lake with like 3 feet of water in it. And right about that time, somebody came from the other direction and got through it. And it kind of gives you that confidence, like, if they can do it, we can certainly do it. But it was an interesting time driving the Bronco like a boat.
Yeah,
I'll bet.
That was my next question, was about y'all driving through the lake, because you were talking about the confidence. What do you do if you meet somebody on that, or can you pretty much see and let them go and then you go?
Yeah, you're doing that all the time. These trails are generally so narrow, only one vehicle can go through. So it's kind of like, I remember the first time I did it with Jeremy out there in the mountains, it's like, how are we going to do this? Because I knew some of these shelf roads are like, they're only wide enough for one vehicle. And you're kind of freaking out about somebody coming the other way. But there's enough spots where, there's enough width that 2 cars can go by. Everybody kind of plans it accordingly. So if you see somebody coming, or sometimes you even have to back up to the last little spot where it was a little wider. But it's just kind of like part of the game. You get really used to it, and you don't even think twice about it after a while.
Yeah. The water, I think what worried me the most about the water was not the depth of it, because they said it went down some, and we're like, okay, well, we should be fine. But it was, where's the road and where's the road?
You don't know where the edge of the road is, where the drop off is. You can't see it. So like, so, hey, how do you know where the road is? Because they couldn't see the bottom. And at some point, you're going to get far enough to the side that it goes down about 10 feet. And they'd said they'd actually fished a couple of Jeeps out of there that rolled off the side.
But not Broncos.
No, not Broncos.
Not Broncos.
Yeah, I've seen some lady in the video saying, just stay to the right. You'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Stay to the
when I
right.
seen that
Stay
side
to the
by
right.
side,
That's why
yeah, that
every
was the
time
funny
Jeremy was drifting a little to the left, I'm thinking to myself, stay to the right, Jeremy. Stay to the right.
the one good thing was the water was so clean, and we're not used to this in Indiana. So, but the water was so clean. I like kind of looked over the side and I could see the rock road, and I was like, okay, I'm not worried anymore. So that's one of those moments where you get yourself kind of worked up, and then as soon as you start, engaging in it, you figure it out. You're like, okay, this isn't so bad. I can see where the road is. Now I got a little deep to some parts, and like David said, David was like, "Hey, a little more to the right." So I'm like, "Okay, I'll go to the right." So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was my biggest concern. The funny thing was when we were approaching that, um, David's like, "Well, how stable is the road underneath the lake?" And I'm like, "Well, that's a good question, David. I guess we'll find out."
A lot of unknowns out there.
I just like it. That's a great question, David. That's great.
Well,
Like, that's not the answer I was expecting, Jeremy.
let's talk about food for a minute. Unless, John, do you have any comments or anything you're wanting to interject with?
I'm
love to
actually just really entertained right now.
Okay. All right.
I'm just really entertained right now. For those who are watching, I got 3 hours of sleep last night, so half of what I'm going to say wouldn't make sense anyways. So
Well, you're doing a great job producing the show.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. And don't forget, we got a little reveal at the end of the show too. So
Oh, yeah. Here we go, baby.
little something,
All right.
something tonight.
All right, let's talk about food for a second. So,
Sure.
like I said, I watch y'all's videos, and they're kind of like documentary style. I felt like, they're longer form videos. Jeremy, I think that yours was like 45 minutes to an hour. David's, I think yours was an hour to hour and 15, 20 minutes, depending on if you include the pictures and the memories and stuff that y'all have added in. Some awesome drone shots, by the way. And I don't remember if you got one at the lake or not, but that would be a great spot for it. And
Yeah,
It would have been. We did not.
it would have been.
well, you're probably thinking,
Thanks for that. That would have been
we weren't
great.
thinking clearly at that point.
you're probably thinking, I don't want this Bronco fished out of this lake.
That
This
would
is
have
my,
been great. That would have been great video.
but I digress. Long story short, great videos, and I saw y'all cooking different foods. And I've, like I said, been on these trips with you before, and I love how you have stuff rigged up to where you can cook. You got, electric cooler and all this stuff. So I was wanting to know what each of y'all's favorite meals were while you're out there, because I seen you doing seasoned potatoes over the fire and aluminum foil and different spices. And I also seen Atod chili dogs, but if I'm not mistaken, Jeremy didn't eat any. And I was wondering, does he have like a stomach ulcer, or was he sick, or was this meat tainted, or why?
It was probably tainted meat, if we're being honest. It was probably tainted meat.
Well,
It was
if
He
tainted,
knew.
then I
He
would have
knew.
been dead because I had them twice, I think. Yeah, that was
So
that
what's
was
the
my favorite. I don't know. There's something about a hot dog out in the woods over a fire with a little Atod chili dog sauce on the top. I actually had that meal twice. So
well, we know
Yeah.
David's
Nice.
Yeah, mine was probably the teriyaki chicken kebabs with the seasoned potatoes.
oh, that was good too. Yeah, that was good too.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite. And that's just one of those. I do like to prep the meals because it just makes it easier. Like when you go overlanding, that is the great thing. You've got a cooler. You don't have to carry dehydrated meals. So I've got like sealed bags of taco meat, chili dogs, chicken, potatoes. I mean, just try to come up with a lot of different stuff. Because to me, cooking in the backcountry is about as much fun as anything. Like that's something I love to do.
Yeah.
And I that's probably one of my favorite things about overlanding actually is the fact that now I don't have to just add water to a bag and wait. I get to actually make something, and I can carry a big kitchen knife and not worry about the weight of it or something. So that probably the whole thing of the whole cooking experience is probably one of my favorite things.
It's basically car camping on steroids.
Yeah. Honestly,
it really is. I mean, you get to take all the big stuff with you. You can take a big tent if you want. You can take all the expensive, like heavier things with you, but you get to ride over lakes and rocks.
Well, and you get to see all the sights that you would on backpacking, and even more, because there's no way you could cover that much ground if you were walking. And the thing that was amazing about it is many of the passes that we went over, there were hiking trails up there too. You know, like the Continental Divide Trail, we kept going over it, and you'd be up there barely able to catch your breath because we'd be at 12,500, 13,000 feet, and then you'd see a Continental Divide Trail. It's like, man, I never would have been able to walk that. But it's sure nice being able to get back in the Bronco when it's like 40 degrees and 35-mile-an-hour winds. Or I mean, a red cone. It was red cone. I tried to do this shot. That was probably 45-mile-an-hour winds. And I had this tripod. I was going to do this really cool tripod shot. It just blew the tripod like right over. So.
Oh wow.
But yeah, but that's one of the nice things about it is you can see all the beautiful terrain and scenery, but you don't have to. You'd never be able to cover that much distance backpacking. So that's one of the cool things, and all the luxuries and just. I mean, it's like, luxury kind of camping, and, all the real food. We had bacon and eggs every morning, and it was like that. It kind of grows on you. Makes it hard to go back to throwing, a 35-pound pack on your back and doing mountain house meals at night. It's like, why am I doing this again when I could just crawl in Jeremy's Bronco?
I just watched an episode of Duck Dynasty today. I was on YouTube and it just popped up and I had to watch it. And it was the opening day of duck season. And Willie was going to go camp out with them. And he pulled up in their large touring bus. Like they're all camping out. He pulls up in a touring bus.
Smart man.
And he had fettuccine Alfredo. He had fettuccine Alfredo in it, and I think he had an Xbox in there. And so they were playing video games and eating fettuccine Alfredo while his brother Jace was out there just roughing it with all the mosquitoes and all that stuff. So
it grows on you for sure.
That's great.
Yeah, Jeremy, why don't we have like a little tailgating set up for your Bronco? How's this not already a thing? We need to have at least be able to play Madden or something while we're in the backcountry, right? I mean, come on.
I mean, it could be done. It could actually. It's halfway there.
Bring a projector and a screen, like a projector and a screen.
Yes.
I mean, backcountry movie night, man.
Yes.
So I'll tell you, going in for travel softball games and things like that, man, I'm always loaded. I got the cooler, I've got the tarps. It's like I'm already set.
That's awesome.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's necessary to add the TV and stuff. You got the caveman TV out there in the fire, and I seen y'all cooking over it a lot, but it looked like you needed it because it's like 85 degrees today in Kentucky. It may be a little cooler in Indiana, but probably not much. And I guess y'all are at higher elevation, but it looked cold. And dude, I seen that you were in like a 3/4 quilt, and I was like, "What is this guy doing?"
He didn't make it through the night in that 3/4.
No, that was bad. The wind got me.
He goes, no, that was bad. That was just bad.
That was bad. Yeah.
Nothing about that was good.
I remember waking up in the morning, going to get Jeremy up, and it's like, Jeremy's not in his quilt anymore or in his hammock. So I wonder where, so he crawled in the Bronco in the middle of the night because it got cold that night.
It was low 30s with what? Probably 30-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, and rain. Yeah, we had thunderstorms that whole night. And then about 2 o'clock in the morning, like the hail and the thunders. And when the hailstorms come in the middle of the Rocky Mountains, man, it makes the temperature. I remember the temperature was like 80 degrees. And then like 5 minutes later, it's like 40 degrees. And we were both in the Bronco going, man, I'm glad I got this Bronco here with the heater on to like bail to. If you're on a backpacking trip, you're not going to be able to do that.
That was the very first time in my lifetime I ever bailed from the hammock to go to the Bronco. Yeah, it got a bit chilly. That setup, I'm usually good to probably low 40s, 42 to 44. I can manage that.
Well, you're usually able to handle cold weather well.
Yeah. I mean, even during that cold spell, it's like I was wearing t-shirt and shorts, and I was fine.
Yeah, I was gonna say when I've hiked with you in the cold, you've had no issues.
Yeah, I think it was the wind that just kept getting my feet and my legs, and I couldn't get it fixed. That and the noise of other people getting in and out of their cars was driving me crazy too. So,
but David must not have heard it. Were you snoring, David? Could you not hear him?
Nope, no snoring.
Oh, I don't know if I believe that. I've been around his tent before. I know that stuff.
Yeah, never admit it.
You have a
Well,
good friend in David, just so you know. You have a very good friend in David.
That's right.
He's not calling you out for your snoring.
so Jeremy, I know before you went, we were texting back and forth. We're in a couple group texts together, and we're also texting. And it looked like you had a calf injury, but you still wanted to go.
Yeah.
You still want to get out there and conquer it because the last time you went, I'm not really sure exactly what happened, but I heard y'all talking about how it's a redemption tour and how you needed to make it through this pass. So can you paint a little picture for us of the
Yeah.
history? What you were
Yes.
dealing with?
Absolutely. So, well, the calf injury was wild. So, I was playing basketball with some nephews in their 20s, which is never a good idea. And so, and I remember it was at a birthday party. I went to just do a regular crossover and just jump and shoot, like nothing crazy, nothing hard, just playing around. And I
But you're almost
swear,
60 now. But you're almost 60
yeah,
now, so
Oh,
you can't do
right.
that anymore.
True, because when I jumped, it felt like somebody launched a rock and smoked me right in the back of the calf. I literally looked behind me like,
Oh.
what was that?
I
And
thought
I
when he
just
described it, I thought he'd blown his Achilles tendon. You
Oh,
yeah.
know,
that's
it's
awful.
all those
Yeah.
football players you saw him. That's exactly the way they described it. And I go, "Hey, Jeremy, any chance you like blew out your Achilles tendon on this one?" And that might have been what he actually injured, but it wasn't blown completely, I guess.
It might be because that about the next 3 or 4 days I couldn't even walk, and I remember I sat down and the wife had to bring the car over to me because I couldn't walk to it. I just sat down right on the basketball court, and it's like I've never felt anything like this before. I don't know what happened. So and my daughter was like, "You look freaked out," and I'm like, "Well, I'm good," but internally I'm thinking I am freaked out right now. So,
Yeah.
but after a while it got to where I could walk, and it just I couldn't walk right. I had to walk with my toe out just to move. Otherwise it hurt too bad to walk with my foot straight. Luckily it happened soon enough before the trip. Even when we started the trip, it still was not right, but it was manageable. And this is one of the great things also. If that would have been a hiking trip, I'd been done.
Yeah.
All that planning to go to Colorado, to go out west and do whatever trails, it would have been done. So, but luckily it's like, okay, as long as I don't walk a lot uphill, I mean, I'm just driving, so trip's still on. So that was a little bit of a concern, but by the end of that trip it got a lot better. I mean, I was able to move fairly normal. I still can't run yet, believe it or not. I don't know what's going on, but I still can't run, so I kind of miss that. But hopefully we'll get back in that pretty soon.
Well, what about the previous attempt? Did you try to hit one of those spots and then had to turn around, or what happened?
Yes. Well, okay, so there was one feature, the one you're talking about was it was on Poughkeepsie Gulch. It was called The Wall. And that was a couple years ago when I did it with David. It's kind of the preliminary or the premier feature, maybe hardest obstacle in the area. And it's a super steep. I think it's probably about 26, 27 degrees straight up. And then it just goes flat. So there's really no give to it. It's just up and then pancakes out.
Wow. Yeah.
It makes it pretty tough. And at one point, if you actually look at David's old video of our trip where we did Black Bear Pass and all those, he's stand up recording, and when I'm driving up, he's like, you can see the bottom of the Bronco as I'm driving up it. Well, I didn't make it up without winching, and that always kind of bothered me. Well, I knew going out and doing this trail that we were doing, like that was always kind of in the back of my mind. I was like, man, I kind of want another shot at that. I know we're close to it. It kind of been in my head for a while for that trip. Well, we happened to get done pretty much with everything that we wanted to do and more.
Yeah,
And
it was unplanned.
Yeah,
Doing
it was
the
completely
redemption
unplanned.
spot was unplanned that day. It's like, hey, we're up here. We might as well go try to take it in.
And that's one of my favorite things about David is, it's like, I was like, hey, do you want to go try Poughkeepsie Gulch? He's like, sure. So,
Why not?
I'm
Yeah,
thinking
why not?
that should be good video.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But we get out to Poughkeepsie Gulch, and it was like Grand Central Station. I mean, there's like Toyotas that are hung up everywhere. They're trying to figure out. There's a bunch of guys. Their plates are from New York, and they weren't modified vehicles. They didn't have lockers, and honestly, there's probably no reason for them to be there because they were just stuck on trail. So I'm trying to move around them. So I have to actually go even harder lines to get around these guys, just to get to the wall. And I remember pulling up to the wall. There's 2 Jeeps there, and there's about 10 people sitting up on the rock. And I'm like,
There was an
well,
audience sitting on the side.
I'm like, well, this is unexpected. But and then, sure enough, we give it a run, and I don't know, there's just something about those 37-inch tires just made it a little bit easier.
Well, and it was dry too. When we did it the last
Yeah.
time, we had rain every single day that last trip 2 years ago, and so it was kind of wet and muddy. That made a huge difference because we had just like perfect weather the entire time, other than that first night when it rained all night long. It was just not a cloud in the sky every day. It was just gorgeous.
That was probably the best weather I've ever had on a trip, and it was in Colorado, where you think it's going to rain every day. I mean, it was absolutely insane. It was almost too sunny at times to record anything decent because you get so much glare. I couldn't believe it. I've never had weather that good on a trip.
Man, y'all got off good, and it made for great video. I guess easy filming, even though there was some hail and stuff at sometimes. But we'll wrap here with a little poop talk. You guys are okay with that?
Always.
Always brings a smile. Always brings a smile.
So I think, Jeremy, I think I already know you're going to say the best thing about a Bronco and poop is you could just drive to a McDonald's and get a coffee and poop. But I'm wondering, were there any opportunities out there in the backwoods? Y'all had any interesting poop stories or situations from this trip in particular, or from any in the past? And if not, I do have a follow-up question.
Man,
I'll leave that one to you, Jeremy.
Yeah. Honestly, I've got it. It was all pretty basic. I mean, that everywhere we went, there was a privy close when there needed to be, so that made it simple. But okay, so speaking of privy, let's talk. We're talking poop.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard of the worst possible job that the DNR could have?
No, what is it?
Have you ever heard? It's called breaking the cone.
Oh, is the person that has to stir the poop pot?
Okay, so in privies, and I'm going to get really graphic here. Okay,
Yeah, let's
so
do it, man.
Bring it.
In a privy, think about it. The seat never moves. The seat never moves. It's always in the same spot. So when everybody drops their bombs, they kind of land on top of each other. It just continues to build
To make a cone. Oh, man.
So somebody has to go in and break the cone.
It just doesn't sound like much fun.
That
dude does not get paid.
It's the new guy, the new person every year on the crew that gets that job. Like, hey, do we have a job for you this year?
Let me, speaking of privies, let me follow up with what you're saying, dude.
I don't want to break the cone. I don't ever want to break the cone.
I don't either.
Ever.
So
Never.
we went on 3 different hikes this weekend. And if y'all want to check them out, I will post some pictures on my Instagram. But we went on 3 different hikes, and we stopped, me, Bridget, and some family. We stopped, and everybody had to pee, and there was like a privy. It's one of those where you just pull up, and it's not really running water. It's just like a pit toilet. So we take turns, and then, we're making small talk. And Bridget was talking about how she dropped her glasses. Like, we were at the gorge one time, and there's a pit toilet. She had these. Luckily, they were like $10 Walmart sunglasses, and they fell off her head and went into the pit toilet, like the privy. And it's probably, 8-10 feet deep down there. And I was like, those glasses are gone forever, right?
Yeah,
that's
time for new glasses.
Yes, they've gotten sacrificed to the poop gods, and we just got to move on from here. So another person on the trip on these hikes says, yeah, actually we were, they were somewhere out west. It was in Utah. I can't remember exactly where, but they were doing like a national park tour, I think. And so they were out in Utah, and they said, yes, we weren't with these people, but it was a group. And, there again, you're taking turns hitting these pit toilets. and this woman drops her cell phone, like her iPhone, into
would
one
stay.
of those pit bullets.
Yeah, time
And
for a new cell phone.
she climbed in there and got it. She
Oh.
got in there and
Oh.
got her
No,
cell phone out of there.
no,
That's
no.
rough, man.
I promise
Ah.
you. Yes, I said,
That's
you know-
dedication to your phone there, man.
It's not that
No, that's
yeah.
just
That
horrible.
must be one nice phone.
That puts new meaning to the word Candy Crush.
Oh, gross. Oh, man. But yeah, absolutely disgusting. Fun way to wrap up the show.
Honestly,
Is
I
that
don't
what
think
that
there's-
is that a fun way to wrap up the show?
There's literally nothing that I could drop in a pit toilet and want to go after. It would all stay. I couldn't do it. Yeah.
Well, let's have everybody spam us in the comments and let us know what is something that is valuable enough that you would get into the pit toilet to fish it out. Is it your phone? Is it your sunglasses? Is it your
wedding
child?
ring.
What is it that is it your wedding ring? What is it that you would
Oh,
go
man.
after in there? Let us know
Man.
in the comments. Jeremy, David, guys, it's been a pleasure. Had fun talking with you. David, I know you got the Instagram, you're a big photography guy. You got your YouTube channel, David Gray. Jeremy, I know you got multiple things. You got Etsy as well.
And but I do want to make a comment. Ruben put on here, we still use your Polar Jammer. Thanks for making it.
Oh, Ruben, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So-
awesome. Hey, those are about ready to come back in
Most
season.
versatile gear ever, man. That thing can be used for everything.
I'm planning on using it hunting this fall. So I mean, that thing's awesome.
Awesome.
Makes a great
Yeah,
pillow too. So.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. I use it a lot.
Yeah, your Etsy, people can check out your Etsy, and if you're still selling those, I guess all that's accessible on your YouTube channel, All Things Outdoors, right?
Yeah, you should be able to find the links to everything there. I've got to go and reactivate some of the stuff on Etsy. I usually wait till right before winter, and I still got a few Polar Jammers I'll sell. I mean, right now, probably what I have is what I'll have. I'm not going to be able to make any more for a while. I've just got too many irons in the fire right now, but hopefully, if you want one, keep an eye out. So I should have them popping back up pretty soon.
All right. Well, Jeremy, All Things Outdoors, 4 words there. If y'all want to check him out
sir.
on YouTube, Instagram, the socials, the Etsy. David Gray, been a pleasure. Anything else y'all wanted to
Great
say?
guys.
I want to throw something out there too. If you ever get a chance to see David Gray's Instagram page and see some of the photos that he takes,
Oh, man.
Unbelievable.
unreal stuff. Like, very talented photographer. You don't realize how difficult photography is until you see a good photographer. And
Thank you,
yeah,
guys.
David, you take some killer photos, or they're more than just photos when you take them. They're artwork. It's beautiful stuff.
And
Well,
if
you get
anybody
to the good spots, it's hard not to take a good picture. It's
There you go. There you go.
yeah, but
a little
It
bit of
takes-
work getting there unless you're in a Bronco.
Yeah. Sometimes I got to duck the camera.
Yeah.
you're a talented man, and if anybody wants to do a deep dive, we have had David on a few times on the show, and I know one episode we really unpacked some of your photography and got some great stories behind that.
I
So
enjoyed that. That was cool.
It was a
yeah,
lot of
y'all
fun.
go back and check that out. John, anything else you wanted to say?
Not to these guys, but we do have a reveal.
All right, let's do
So,
it.
I'm going to let you guys go to the green room, hang out for just a second, and we'll be back with
Okay.
you in just a minute.
See you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Got a drum-
Jeremiah,
Yes, I do have a drum roll on here.
you do remember there was something we said we were going to do this week.
Oh, I haven't forgotten, man.
We
I
said
know everybody's
before
excited.
summer is over,
Mhm.
we would be releasing the first bit of merchandise for the backpacking podcast. And so,
Yes.
Jeremiah, I'm about to share with you a screenshot of the first ever backpacking podcast shop. And
Oh,
our
here we
first
go.
items, and that's not it at all. What is that? We need to go to the right thing here. And there it is. The backpacking podcast shop. We have 2 shirts, one for men, one for women, and we have stickers now. So those are the first items. Now, we said leading up to Christmas, we're going to be adding new items, and we're going to be letting people have the opportunity to purchase those things. So we're starting off with the basic classic backpacking podcast logo. And
can't go wrong.
And if you'd like to go purchase one of those shirts or a sticker, you can go there. It is on, let me see if I can show this to you. You go to the backpacking podcast shop.myspreadshop.com. We will put that also on our YouTube page.
Yeah, you just click
and we'll
it.
put a link in the description below and the link in our podcast. That's all being sold on Spreadshop. But you'll be able to purchase the shirts there and the stickers there, and we'll be adding new designs and new items once a month leading up to Christmas, so you can get all of your important Christmas shopping items taken care of. We have merch, Jeremiah. We have merch. We're no longer lying about it. There's actually merch that Jeremiah's sort of face is on. So
yeah, so far my silhouette. I don't know if we could show it on the the live stream, but the Pizza Ninja's comment is cracking me up, man. That's hilarious.
Oh gosh, I'm definitely not posting that, but yes.
You had to be live to see it in person to get the joke. But
yes.
Oh man, what a fun
but the
show.
shirts are done, and for people wanting to pick one up, I mean, it's some pretty good stuff right there, Jeremiah.
I'll I'm going to check and see who we got on next week. Oh my goodness. Oh, more Colorado, man.
Yeah?
Yeah, a little Jared Champion is going to be
Oh,
on
that's
next
right.
Friday night with us. And
That's
he's
right.
doing some insane stuff with the Colorado Trail. So excited to talk to him and get his take on that and see how his family's doing, because I don't know. It's interesting, man. Interesting. We talked to him a little bit before we had him on the show, and they were both backpacking YouTubers, and I don't know. There's a lot to share. We'll get into all of it next week, but that'll be a fun show.
What I will say is I'm going to give a little bit of a hint to the show. Imagine hiking a trail with gear that was made the year the trail was created.
Oh, what a teaser.
We're going to leave it at that. It's going to be a good episode, and we're going to have a lot of fun hanging out with Jared. Jeremiah, we'll catch you next week. And for the rest of y'all, thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Adios, folks.